house was built for Quanah by Texas cattlemen. They had their cattle near the Red River. They were having a drought. They needed grass and water. They would look to this vicinity. They saw lightning occurring up here. They believe it's raining to the north, and they kept remaining dry. That pattern kept repeating. Signs of rain to the north, none down there. They make a journey up here. They had a meeting with Quanah. They said, could we bring our cattle up here? And if so, what did Quanah want? Quanah told him he wanted a house like the general at Fort Sill had, only bigger. So the house was built for Quanah. It originally sat about 2 miles north of here. You go over to the creek that's just west of us, you follow it to the north, you'll come to the south side of the Wichita Mountains. The house set up on a rise of dirt on the south side of what is known as Quanah Mountain. Quanah is responsible for the wildlife refuge that's north of us, having the buffalo. He wanted the buffalo returned to the prairie. He met with Teddy Roosevelt about that. They start the first National Wildlife Preserve north of us and bring buffalo from the New York Zoo to establish a herd, because native buffalo had been killed by soldiers in an attempt to make the Indians have to relocate. Quanah lived his life at or near the house. He dies in the house. His family continued to live in the house at that original location up until 1956. In 1956, Fort Sill needs an area to test fire the Honest John rocket. They seize people's land from the fort north of Lawton to the west to the Indiana Road. It's a 20-mile strip of land, about 5 miles in width. At that time, the house was 70 years old. Mrs. Birdsong, one of Quanah's daughters, was living in it. She doesn't know what to do about making a move, so she continues life in the house. Fort Sill doesn't agree with her staying there. They go back out there and they meet with her. They offered to move the house in order to entice her to agree to leave the premises. She does agree. They moved the house as quickly as it could be done to the military crossroads north of town. While it sits there on a truck, Mrs. Birdsong goes looking for a place to put the house. She can't find a rural setting. All she can find is a city lot in the town of Cache to have it moved to. So it's moved into the town of Cache. Movers are in a big hurry. They just put blocks underneath the house and drive away. Mrs. Birdsong comes to the house. First she realizes there was no lower porch. The lower porch had to be dismantled in order to move the house. The upper porch is braced to the side of the house, so you could carry the roof and the upper porch above it. Mainly the roof, I guess. If it was only the porch, maybe you'd have dismantled it. But, so you try to dismantle the least amount, I guess, is what that means. So she gets inside. There's no chimney. She couldn't heat or cook, and there's no provision for water and no restroom. The original water source was a well you would walk over to with a rope and a bucket, pull your water up and carry it inside, and the restroom was an outhouse setting. So, house wasn't livable. She went up ahead and stayed with family and friends, or at least partially, to hopefully to always get back to living full-time in the house. My uncle started Eagle Park here in 1957. There was an amusement park north of us, which was also forced to move. It moved 50 miles west of here, north of the town of Altus. He was interested in history. He would talk to Mrs. Birdsong to learn about life with Quanah and early day life in the area. And after some time of viewing the house, which was sitting about a block and a half from where my uncle lived, usually appearing somewhat vacant, he wanted to know, would she be willing to part with the house? If so, he would move it down here and set it up for historical tours. At that time, she's not interested. She believes the house will be made livable, so there's nothing to talk about. More time passes. Family members that had lived with her were all finding newer, more modern places. So it starts looking like one elderly lady would be living in a big, unmodern house. On Easter morning in 1958, she came to my uncle's house. She stayed in her car. She blew her horn. My uncle goes outside to see what she wants. She calls him son. We're not related. Son is something an elderly lady would call a younger man. She said, son, if anything was ever going to be done with the house, she felt it would be up to him. And if he would trade her a livable house for the Star House, she'd go along with the trade. So that is how the house came to be here. May 23rd of 2015, we were flooded. This is the high water line right there.
Goodness.
This is the dining room. That is the original table. This is the kitchen. When the house was moved down here, Mrs. Birdsong worked with my uncle to help set it up like it was in Quanah's time. From the time of Quanah's death in 1911 until the time the house was moved here in 1958, if a family member was in need of an item from the house that wasn't being used, they could borrow it from the house. The stove had been borrowed. It was borrowed by a brother of Mrs. Birdsong from a different wife. Quanah had 7 wives living under one roof at one time, and it was allowed to be brought back.
7 wives.
I knew it was a bunch.
That sounds exhausting.
Was that the total number of his wives, or did he have more?
That's the total number. There's rumors that somebody else he wanted to marry, but some of the current wives told him no more. So I don't know if that's
7 to
true or
1.
not.
No less. Can you imagine all under one roof?
No, I can't.
Watch out, guys.
Well, it's nice to have helpers, but. Just have one for each night of the week.
Another, what you call another male figure in his tribe. I mean, it's a brave. What if he was lost or died, you know, well then the chief, being the leader, was supposed to take over the responsibility of providing for that lady. I guess that was the insurance policy of that day. And so then she became a wife. I don't know if that's 100% correct or not, but
I think that says that was kind of what they did do.
this room is the parlor. When the house was being built, the family was living in teepees next to it. It was an exciting time. They were going to be moving into a house. The wives came into the house. They started picking out spaces to make as their own. 2 of the wives chose this room as their new space. They didn't know about having a room that you would sit and visit in. They only knew they needed a space to call their own. And they chose a room next to Quanah's. This is Quanah's room.
Where did this furniture come from? Was it original or they just brought stuff in this sort of period of time?
You just have to read between the lines of a story in the kitchen. Mrs. Birdsong helps my uncle set it up like it was in Quanah's time.
Similar.
Some pieces are original, some pieces are singular, some are period correct, I guess. You know, you had like 46 years from the death of Quanah to when the house is moved in to cash. And so you have 7 wives who at first, I'm sure they don't know what hit them when Quanah leaves. You know, then all of a sudden, I'm not going to be living with that lady probably starts occurring, and then they start taking things they want. away from the house to somewhere else maybe, but I can only imagine that, but that's more than likely
Kind of
what would occur.
human nature.
This is Tenarcy's room. Tenarcy was Quanah's 7th and favorite wife. She got the room to herself. The other wives all shared a room, 2 wives per room times 3 rooms. Apparently, as long as you were the youngest, prettiest, and newest, you'll always be the favorite.
But if she was second, she probably wasn't those days.
7th.
Oh, 7. Oh, okay, I thought you said second.
Nope.
I got it.
This is the only hallway in the high water line.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
It does have original. The rest of the patterns throughout the house are patterns that my uncle selected. You know, he acquired the house, he starts getting it ready for the viewing public, and you know, he uncovers patterns similar to what you see. And 'cause I remember vaguely sitting in the skating rink over there when it was slow and he'd be thumbing through wallpaper catalogs, so he was probably selecting wallpaper for here possibly, but I don't know where the patterns were going. I just remember the large amount of wallpaper books that he was thumbing through. This was originally the front door to the house. When the house was first built, there was no kitchen and dining room. In 1892, it was added. At that time, where we came in became the front entryway, and this probably continued to be a bedroom because of the need for the bedroom space with the 25 children and 7 wives.
25 children.
25.
When they first moved into the house, they probably cooked outdoors, which was what they were familiar with. And apparently they either learned about indoor cooking, or maybe Quanah realizes he needs the meeting room space that the dining room became. This is the room at the bottom of the stairs. Children would bathe in this room before going upstairs to their rooms. The room at the top of the stairs is a wife's room. 2 of the wives were assigned the duties to oversee the older children. At the top of the stairs, there's a door going into the boys' room, and the girls would have to walk through the wife's room to get to a door to go into their room. There's no hallway upstairs. The wheelchair was Topaz, that was one of his wives. Purposes. There's a 1-room schoolhouse over there past the trees that came from about 8 miles south of town. This house to the north of us is the Cotapony Indian home. There were, at statehood, each Indian was deeded a quarter section of land of their choice rather than being put on a reservation. Quanah didn't want his people put on a reservation, so he met with someone in the government, got them the opportunity to choose a tract of land before land settlement in this area.
So what's like the journal
The church. Where did it come from?
That's usually where I go to next.
Sorry, I'm just excited.
Yes,
This is so cool.
it's Wayne Gibson is my name. My mother was Westerner. She married Gibson. The church came from the Saddle Mountain area, which is on the north side of the mountains. No, I told about that while the 4 of you were talking. It's Indian Baptist Church and Mission School. The building to the east of it sat with it. It was used for schools, probably an overflow classrooms for church services, and a dining hall. And they both sat on the north side of the mountain. Around the corner, the square top front building is the land settlement office of the Big Pasture. It came from 12 miles south of here, west of the town of Chattanooga. And it dealt with settling the last open range in Oklahoma, which was known as the Big Pasture. The next building north of it was the first doctor's office in the town of Cache. It was later used as a bar. While it was a bar, it had a fire. The bar owners apparently aren't interested in rebuilding it. My uncle knows it has some history to it, so he's interested in acquiring it. Apparently I get a maintenance project today is where I come into the picture, or I receive multiple complaints because I haven't been able to maintain it to more pristine condition than when they came here. So the next two buildings, the Cache Journal building and the barbershop building, were built on site. They're replicas of the original buildings. Over the way, the galvanized building with the red bottom is a replica of Violet Livery Stable, which was the livery stable of Cache. From the early days of the park up until 1976, we rented horses from that structure. In 1976, during Jimmy Carter's term, they enacted the Consumer Product Safety Commission, who says horseback riding is dangerous and unpredictable. Insurance companies read into that and they say, well, you know, ride a horse, win a prize. They quit writing policies, so we ceased to rent horses. You know, I guess possibly, you know, they still have trail rides today. I have no idea what fee they charge, maybe $50 a trail ride or something in that neighborhood. You know, so something's still available. But at our time frame, we charged $1 an hour when we first rented horses.
Oh my
At the
gosh.
time when we quit renting horses, we were charging $3 an hour. The picket house over there, the vertical log structure that had the wagon on the porch, was one of the original structures from Fort Sill. It was determined to be surplus property. They had sold or traded it to a lady who had hopes of using it as a church camp cabin. She can't get it moved. She comes out here because my uncle had been getting other structures moved. We weren't movers. We hired a mover and probably worked hand in hand with him. You know, you prepared a landing spot for it. Maybe you helped him prepare it to roll. You know. But, you know, so my uncle goes over there to look at the building because the lady wants some help. You know. He gets in. He's excited about seeing the building too, I'm sure. He gets over there. Currently it has concrete in the walls. I assume original construction would have been mud, dirt, sod, something like that in the sides. It's always had concrete here, but you know, you get over there, you look at it, and maybe Fort Sill had changed it to concrete over the years. I don't know that fact. And, you know, the movers wouldn't move it because they think the way you move a house, you stick beams underneath it, you start lifting it up. It's only going to lift the logs that are above the beams. The rest of them start bowing out. You have a pile of sticks, probably is why they're worried about moving. You know, my uncle tells her you'll have to dismantle it, load it on the bed of a truck, haul it where you're going, and reassemble it. That seems like a daunting task to tell somebody. And I guess she doesn't feel she can get that done. My uncle thinks he can. She apparently trades him the building, probably for what she had in it. He had a couple of men working here with him at the park that came from a construction background, probably no formal training, you know, just more willing to do something than anything. I'm sure that's what it took. They went over there, they dismantled it, loaded it in the bed of a truck, hauled it here, reassembled it. You know, it's here today because of that. the building to the north of it. It's a 2-room structure. It was the original office building of the Wildlife Refuge. Somebody stopped by and told my uncle they're out there dismantling the old office building because they had had a new one built. I usually tell that previous to that point. You know, he wonders, well, why are they doing that? And I'm sure nothing else mattered but getting out there to take some of the last photos. He gets out there. Men were working with hand tools. He says, you know, what's happening here? Why are you doing this? And he's told, well, we're going to take the material and make something else out of it. And he tells them, well, if the material was what you needed, he would give them material, and you know, if they would trade him the structure. So apparently they trade him the structure for some amount of material or some money. I don't know which. But that's, you know, I know he had to reassemble some of it. I mean, they just had like some siding pulled off of it. I've seen pictures like that where there's missing siding, you know. Today they would have showed up there with a track hoe like they do that home improvement or whatever it is that I don't know that it's on anymore, but it was a big funny thing to knock down a building while the family was on vacation, you know. Well, I don't know that it's all that funny to knock down your house, but that's what they are. But it'd been gone in a matter of minutes, you know, but because they were using hand tools, it was something you could have saved, apparently. The White House right over there at one time was the home of Frank James, who was Jesse James's brother. It's set in rural northeast Comanche County up north of the town of Fletcher. At one time, Frank James lived up there. They still have news reports almost every year of people trying to find the loot around that area.
Wow.
There's rumors of loot being stashed in the Wichita Mountains, and some rumor about the James brothers riding at a gallop through the refuge, which was not a refuge at that time, I'm assuming, you know, through the mountains, trying to retrace their steps, you know, that I guess they were running, fleeing a posse maybe, and I don't know that they were hauling as much as you would need to stop and find a place to stash it. That's another story, but, you know, makes a good story, I guess, that somewhere in some canyon or something there's loot buried or hidden.
My goodness, thank you.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
So good.
So was this also part of the, like the amusement park, like a kind of like Silver Lake City has
That was Frank James' town.
I guess there was a hope of all that, you know.